Guten Morgen, ich darf Sie heute zu unserer Pressekonferenz Präsentation der IEA-Länderprüfung zur österreichischen Energiepolitik begrüßen. Am Podium haben wir die Staatssekretärin für Energie Elisabeth. Zu ihrer Linken haben wir den IEA-Exekutivdirektor der Fatih Birol und auf der rechten Seite haben wir Al-Saffar, Referent des Herrn Generaldirektors. Frau Staatssekretärin, ich darf Sie bitten um Ihre Eröffnungsworte.
Schönen guten Morgen, lieber Fatih, guten Morgen. Ich freue mich sehr, dass du mit deinem Team heute hier bist, um eben genau den neuen Report 2026 über Österreich entsprechend zu präsentieren. Ich glaube, er kommt für Österreich zu einem sehr wichtigen Zeitpunkt, denn intelligente Energiepolitik ist mehr als die Frage einzelner Märkte oder Technologien. Sie ist mittlerweile eine Frage der Versorgungssicherheit, der Wettbewerbsfähigkeit, aber vor allem auch der strategischen Unabhängigkeit. Und das sieht man aufgrund der aktuellen geopolitischen Lage natürlich besonders deutlich. Der Konflikt in der Golfregion zeigt, wie rasch internationale Spannungen, weltweite Energiepreise, Lieferketten und wirtschaftliche Stabilität dadurch ins Wanken kommen können. Und eine gut fundierte Datenbasis, wie wir sie dank der Internationalen Energieagentur haben, erlaubt es uns auch gemeinsam gute Entscheidungen zu treffen und ein koordiniertes Vorgehen international, aber auch im Rahmen von Europa ist sehr entscheidend. Österreich hat sich daher mit vollem Selbstverständnis an der Collective Action der IEA beteiligt und gemäß ihrem Anteil 325.000 Tonnen Rohöl freigegeben. Davon wurden mittlerweile 56.000 Tonnen in der Raffinerie in Schwechat zu Fertigprodukten verarbeitet. Gleichzeitig ist uns aber natürlich auch klar, dass strategische Reserven sehr wichtig sind. Man muss damit verantwortungsvoll umgehen, weil natürlich diese Reserven auch tatsächlich dafür da sind, tatsächliche physische Engpässe gegebenenfalls zu überbrücken. Daher müssen wir vor allem daran arbeiten, unabhängiger, effizienter und widerstandsfähiger zu werden. Und das bedeutet auf den Punkt gebracht mehr Produktion von heimischer Energie. Das bedeutet auch, auf die Elektrifizierung konsequent setzen bei Mobilität und der Raumwärme und natürlich die Energieeffizienzpotenziale auszuschöpfen. Und genau deshalb ist der Energy Policy Review der Energieagentur für uns so wichtig. Er zeigt nämlich deutlich, Österreich ist beim Ausbau erneuerbarer Energien nicht irgendwo am Anfang, sondern hat bereits ein ordentliches Stück der Strecke gemacht. Das ist eine wirklich starke Bestätigung, auf die wir aufbauen können. Der Bericht zeigt aber natürlich auch, dass die nächsten Schritte folgen müssen und anspruchsvoller werden, weil es geht nicht nur mehr darum, ein gesamtes Energiesystem neu auszurichten. Es geht darum, ein System zu bauen, das sicher ist, das leistbar bleibt, das unseren Wirtschafts- und Industriestandort stärkt. Und daher legt der Bericht auch sehr zu Recht den ersten Schwerpunkt auf die Stärkung der Dekarbonisierung der Wirtschaft und der Wettbewerbsfähigkeit der Industrie. Für Österreich als Industriestandort ist das eine Schlüsselfrage. Wir wollen Emissionen senken, wir wollen aber vor allem auch Wertschöpfung und Arbeitsplätze und industrielle Stärke in Österreich halten. Deshalb braucht es Beispiele wie das Standortabsicherungsgesetz 2025, das auch im Bericht erwähnt wird, wo mittlerweile auch das offizielle Okay aus Brüssel gekommen ist, mit dem wir energieintensive Unternehmen unterstützen können und gleichzeitig auch das Risiko reduzieren können, die Produktion und Emissionen einfach ins Ausland zu verlagern. Wir haben zudem im Rahmen der Industriestrategie festgelegt, dass es den Industriestrombonus ab 2027 geben wird, analog zur kommenden Regelung unseres wichtigsten Handelspartners Deutschland. Der zweite Schwerpunkt des Review war die Flexibilität und Speicherung im Energiesystem. Das ist deshalb so zentral, weil ein Energiesystem mit hohem Anteil an erneuerbarer Energie eben anders funktioniert, als wir es aus unserem alten System gewohnt sind. Wir brauchen mehr Speicher, um die volatile Energie 24/7 verfügbar zu machen. Wir brauchen intelligente Netze, die vorhandenen Strom besser organisieren, Erzeugung, Verbrauch, Speicher und Netzauslastung in Echtzeit koordinieren. Und dafür brauchen wir als Voraussetzung Digitalisierung. Und last but not least brauchen wir eben auch die entsprechenden Anreize wie Flexibilitäts-Tarifanreize oder verstärkte Marktsignale, damit Erzeugung, Verbrauch und Speicherung besser zusammenspielen. Und genau hier setzt das Elektrizitätswirtschaftsgesetz an. Ein Gesetz, das im Bericht mehrfach erwähnt wird und mit dem wir genau diesen Strommarkt modernisieren und die Antworten auf viele Fragen geben, die auch die IEA in ihrem Bericht anspricht. Das Ziel war klar, wir wollen den Netzausbau effizienter steuern, die Möglichkeiten der Digitalisierung besser nutzen und Kostensteigerungen für Endkundinnen und Endkunden nachhaltig eindämmen. Ein wichtiger Punkt, wie das gelingt, ist eben die Transparenz. Wir haben unsere Stromrechnungen vereinfacht. Wir haben den Hinweis zum Tarifkalkulator der e-Control dorthin geschrieben. Damit können die Kundinnen und Kunden gleich mit wenigen Klicks ihre Tarife vergleichen und sich für den günstigeren entscheiden. Wir haben aber auch dafür gesorgt, was auch ein ganz großes Anliegen der Energieagentur ist, dass vulnerable Haushalte einen Sozialtarif bekommen. Das bringt 290.000 Haushalten in Österreich eine Ersparnis von rund 300 €. Das ist ein extrem wichtiger Beitrag zur Leistbarkeit von Energie. Das LWG stärkt aber auch die rasche Integration von Erneuerbaren im Stromsystem, flexible Netzanschlussvereinbarungen, die dazu führen, dass Erzeugungsanlagen früher angeschlossen werden können, auch wenn die Netzkapazität begrenzt ist. Und wir machen auch mit der Spitzenkappung vor, was es braucht, um Netzüberlastungen zu vermeiden. Das klingt jetzt alles etwas technisch, aber am Ende des Tages geht es darum, die bestehenden Netzkapazitäten besser zu nutzen und unnötige Verzögerungen zu vermeiden. Und am Ende des Tages heißt es auch, wir optimieren den Ausbau, indem weniger Kilometer an Stromleitungen gebaut werden müssen, und das macht unser System günstiger. Gerade auch im Bereich der Speicher werden wir mit diesem Gesetz alle Möglichkeiten stärken, indem durch eine Ausnahme der Netzentgeltkomponenten, wie es auch im Bericht suggeriert, für den systemdienlichen Betrieb geschaffen wird. Auch die variablen Netztarife, dynamische Stromverträge und die bessere Nutzung der Smart-Meter-Daten wird einen weiteren Boost bringen. Und ich glaube, wir sind in Österreich auch Vorreiter, wenn es darum geht, mit dem Sommer-Nieder-Arbeitstarif, den wir seit 1. April am Tun haben, wo zwischen 1. April und 30. September 20% Rabatt auf die Netzentgelte gewährt wird, einen weiteren Schritt gesetzt. Das Fazit ist daher klar. Der IEA-Bericht stellt Österreich beim Ausbau erneuerbarer Energien ein gutes Zeugnis aus, bestätigt die Arbeit der letzten Jahre, aber ist gleichzeitig auch Auftrag. Wir haben eine wichtige Hausaufgabe erledigt, das ist das LWG, aber darauf dürfen wir uns nicht ausruhen. Es gibt noch weitere Vorhaben, auf die die Empfehlungen der IEA abzielen, die wir rasch auch umsetzen müssen. Darunter allen voran das Erneuerbaren Ausbaubeschleunigungsgesetz. Dafür brauchen wir jetzt einen breiten Schulterschluss mit der Opposition, damit wir das rasch beschließen können. Aber wir haben bereits auch in Ausarbeitung die EAG-Novelle, das Erneuerbaren Gasgesetz, das Gaswirtschaftsgesetz, das auch den wichtigen Hochlauf des Wasserstoffmarktes in Angriff nehmen wird, und natürlich die Aufhebung des CCS-Verbotes. Damit schaffen wir die Voraussetzungen für Versorgungssicherheit, Wettbewerbsfähigkeit und den Ausbau erneuerbarer Energien. Nur wenn wir das miteinander verbinden, wird am Ende wahre Resilienz entstehen. Und im Bericht auch sehr positiv hervorgehoben wird, die 3,3% Forschungsquote, die wir haben. Innovation ist eine Stärke von Österreich, und genau deshalb werden wir gemeinsam mit der Internationalen Energieagentur 2027 auch Gastgeber des Energy Innovation Forums sein und dort Innovatoren, Investoren und politische Entscheidungsträger aus der ganzen Welt zusammenbringen. Das wird auch die Stärke Österreichs vor den Vorhang holen als Platz für Technologie, Industrie und Forschung und wird neue Chancen für Kooperationen, Innovation, aber auch Wertschöpfung eröffnen. Vielen Dank.
Okay, so ich werde auf Englisch sprechen müssen. So, Madam State Secretary, thank you very much for the warm welcome to Vienna. Dear colleagues, we review our member countries' energy policies every 4 or 5 years with an independent group of energy experts from different sectors, oil, gas, electricity, investment, technology, and make a report without fear, without favor, and bring it, put it on the table with the hope that it can provide some inspiration for the governments and also make some critiques of the work. And normally, I am not able to go to this, making this launch of our reports, but this time, since this country is very important for me, I spent more than 13 years in this very city of Vienna. I thought I should come here personally, and I have also requested one of our top managers, Mr. Al-Saffar, comes with me, and we discuss the Austrian energy policy issues. Dear colleagues, we are going to talk about the report, especially my colleague, Mr. Al-Saffar, but I want to tell a few things, in fact, about the global energy picture. Because I believe we are going through a historical period in terms of energy, in terms of foreign policy, and in terms of geopolitics. As I have already mid-March, 2.5 weeks after the war has started, labeled, we are experiencing the largest energy crisis in the history. And I very much hope that this energy crisis will not unfold to an economic crisis. We had two major oil crises in 1970s, 1973 and 1979, with major economic consequences for the entire world. And in each of them, the world has lost 5 million barrels per day of oil. 5 million plus 5 million, 73, 5 million, 79, 5, altogether 10 million. And today, in this crisis, as of today, we lost 14 million barrels per day of oil. Another big crisis we had recently was after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and in Europe, we lost about 75 BCM of natural gas. And as of today, we lost in this crisis over 100 BCM of natural gas. To sum up, the amount of oil and gas we lost as of today in this energy crisis is bigger than all three major energy crises put together in the history. And not only that, dear colleagues, from the Strait of Hormuz, very important vital commodities go through, such as fertilizers, such as petrochemicals, such as sulfur. The world is going to understand very soon that it will have devastating implications for our economy, especially for the emerging and developing countries, but for everybody. I'll give you one example. Fertilizers, which is very important for the agriculture sector. In an average crop, the cost of an average crop, 60% of the cost is fertilizers plus diesel. And both of them, their prices are going up, skyrocketing. And this is happening at a time when the bulk of the world is starting the farming season. So this will have implications for the food prices to come. So therefore, it is extremely important for the agency like the IEA, which, as Madam Secretary said, takes the energy security as a core mandate, and it is the reason one of the first things we did is we released huge amount of oil stocks to the market, 400 million barrels, which is the largest in the history. And I announced it on 11th of March. And when we announced this, oil prices went down by $20. We are doing other efforts, such as giving some suggestions to the countries around the world how they can reduce the oil consumption in a hurry, such as starting teleworking, such as making the public transportation free or very cheap, and other putting some speed limits for the cars and others. And almost 40 countries, especially in Asia, have adopted those suggestions. And we are also having energy diplomacy, talking with all the countries, bringing them together. So, Strait of Hormuz, the only solution, viable solution to this problem is the Strait of Hormuz is open fully to the transportation of oil, gas, and the other commodities. But if it is not fully opened, even in a situation, there are still risks of attacks, and the commercially not convincing context, the Strait of Hormuz will not be able to provide transit of the fleets as much as it was before, and we will see volatile oil and gas markets years to come. I very much hope that this will not last long, but as many of you may know, the oil price is very high, gas is very high. Europe is not at the forefront, but I can tell you, every country will be affected from that. There will be a time lag, there will be differences. No country is immune to that. I just came here from Canada. I was in Canada for 2 days upon the invitation of Prime Minister Mark Carney. My meetings with the Mr. Prime Minister there and with the ministers and the business leaders. Canada is a major oil and gas country, hydropower, nuclear power, everything, but everybody feel the effects of this. So when it comes to this very country, when I read the report that my colleagues and the independent experts prepared, I can tell you that the situation looks, if I may say so, Madam Secretary, one of the best in Europe in terms of how your country's energy fundamentals are, and how countries prepared for difficult days. So thank you for that, and thank you very much being so well prepared. And I would say that both in terms of the electricity sector, you made major achievements for that, and both also the efforts in terms of the decarbonization of the transportation sector, lots of efforts there. And from a storage point of view, again, excellent work. I am very much looking forward to the Electricity Industry Act, hopefully come to fruition at the end. It's a very good move in the right direction to provide more flexibility and security for the system and giving an additional boost for renewable energies. Our report, as my colleague Mr. Al-Saffar will tell you more in depth, I would hope to see that creating more flexibility in the markets, a bit more push for the electric cars, which I believe, as a result of this crisis in the world, will get an additional boost around the world. Okay, and also I hope to see that the heating issue is also addressed. But you are on a very good path, Madam Secretary of State. This is compared to many other countries in Europe and beyond. Of course, like many countries, how are we going to combine this crisis, the issue of affordability, and reaching our climate targets is an important challenge, and I will discuss today with the Herr Bundeskanzler this afternoon these issues in depth. Having said that, maybe I tell you a bit my agenda today so that you are aware. After this meeting, I am going to, I mentioned energy diplomacy, I am going to meet the OPEC Secretary General in Vienna today. After that, with the Herr Bundeskanzler, and after that, I will be the guest of former Prime Minister Schüssel and some other diplomats in Vienna, and then afterwards I will go back to Paris. And I hope to come back again, latest in the Innovation Forum. The Innovation Forum is we organized regularly, bring more than 60 governments around the world, 1,000 participants, very brainy people, the tech people, especially a country which is more than 3%, and on innovation around it will be a great, I get event here, and I can assure it will be a great event. It can be even more entertaining than the Eurovision, I can assure you that. So, and it is definitely maybe even more useful, if I may say so, here. And but thank you very much, Madam State Secretary, for hosting me and my colleague, Mr. Al-Saffar, today. Thank you. And maybe I can pass it to my colleague, Mr. Al-Saffar.
Thank you, Dr. Birol, and thank you, Madam State Secretary. I'll spend the next few minutes just talking over this report, highlighting where Austria is making particular progress, where the gaps to target are widening, and what the most practical recommendations to help the government meet its policy objectives and keep the energy system secure and affordable are. So we'll start by, first of all, affirming that Austria has extremely ambitious targets. And the key issue now is how to deliver these targets at pace. Now, what this chart shows is that economy-wide emissions have not fallen as fast enough to match the speed implied by those ambitious targets to 2040 and the neutrality goals. And the message within the review itself is not really about ambition, it's about alignment towards the ambition. Aligning targets with credible delivery mechanisms, with strong governance across all levels of government, and very crucially, the financial resources in a tight budget context. We also flag in this report that the weaker performance of land use sinks makes the challenge of overall neutrality harder. So stronger action across all sectors becomes even more important going forward. The second key finding concerns what at the International Energy Agency and our executive director has termed the age of electricity that is happening more broadly than Austria itself. Electricity demand in Austria has been fairly flat historically, but going forward, we anticipate a relatively sharp increase by over a third by 2030 and by 75% by 2040, as electrification accelerates across the transport sector, the heat sector, and new industrial uses as well. What this raises in terms of questions is, can the power system stay reliable and affordable while adding large amounts of renewables? And our answer is profoundly yes, it can, but only with much more flexibility in the system. And that requires unlocking storage, it requires demand response, and a faster grid readiness as well. In practice, it's about making flexibility valuable in markets and in regulation so that households and businesses can be rewarded for helping to keep the system balanced. Now, what this slide shows is that it's a pretty striking pattern. Solar PV is expanding very fast. There's been tremendous efforts on solar PV, but wind development has slowed down. However, wind matters a lot because it supports winter supply and seasonal balance towards the grid. And if wind remains stuck, the gap to 2030 objectives widens, and the system relies more on imports or higher cost balancing mechanisms. Now, the review recommends 2 practical steps to help alleviate this issue. The first is to adapt support so that renewables are integrated in a systems-friendly way so that they can help with grid stability and balancing. And the second recommendation is to accelerate wind by tackling the core barrier to this sector, which is permitting and siting, with clearer development zones and faster, more consistent processes across Austria's regions. Now, here, as many countries across the world, affordability is the core of the government's policy. The review notes that market design and the level of competition influence whether low-cost renewables actually translate into lower bills. What we highlight is that retail markets remain concentrated in many regions, and that stronger competitive dynamics and clearer price signals would help pass the cost reductions through to the consumers. Flexibility matters here as well, and storage and demand response reduce overall system costs, which ultimately reduces the bill pressure. The new Electricity Market Act moves in the right direction, as my executive director just mentions, on both the consumer protection but also on flexibility. Our point is that market openness and even stronger flexibility are essential to making affordability durable. In buildings and in heat, Austria has already shifted significantly towards low emissions options, supported by efficiency gains. What this review focuses on is what comes next. Where are the greater savings in the future? And the first is that we recommend integrated heating and cooling plans across the national, regional, and municipal levels, because heat infrastructure choices lock in costs and emissions for decades. These are investments made today that have ramifications decades into the future. And the second, we underline consumer protection in district heating, which supplies a significant share of building heat and often operates as a natural monopoly. Stronger regulatory oversight can help ensure pricing is fair and that investments support decarbonization at the least cost, important for both climate goals and for household bills. For industry, the review recognizes the twin pressures that industries here but elsewhere also face, which is how to pair competitiveness on the one hand with decarbonization goals on the other. High energy costs and global competition affect investment decisions, especially in energy-intensive sectors. Austria's industrial strategy introduces cost relief tools. Our recommendation is that any support should remain targeted and, crucially, time-bound, and be designed to drive clean reinvestment, efficiency, electrification, and low-carbon technologies. So support strengthens long-term competitiveness in Austria rather than just postponing a transition. Austria has a strong innovation system, as mentioned by Madam State Secretary, but also my Executive Director, and we suggest clearer frameworks in this report to help low-carbon industrial solutions scale from pilot phases towards market output as well. A good example of this is what happens in hydrogen and why sequencing matters when we're talking about innovation. What this slide shows is that projected 2040 demand ranges widely depending on how the industry evolves. So there's a real risk of either underinvesting or overinvesting, and that hydrogen infrastructure could create stranded assets if they are overinvested in. Today, hydrogen use is still mostly fossil-based, and the biggest future demand, if it materializes, comes from harder to abate industrial sectors. So what our recommendation over here is that, that infrastructure plans must follow industrial demand, not the other way around. Austria should roll out a hydrogen start network, first in key clusters such as Linz or Styria or the Vienna region, while maintaining flexibility on the timing, scale, and extent of the network expansion. And because hydrogen infrastructure is by nature regional, we emphasize close coordination with neighboring countries and the EU corridor planning. Now, top of everyone's mind, and as my executive director already mentioned, energy security is really key in Austria but elsewhere. And I want to highlight that the review recognizes Austria's strong and pragmatic performance. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Austria moved swiftly to strengthen security of gas supply. It did this by diversifying away from Russian pipeline gas. It increased storage filling ahead of winter, and it increased its strategic gas reserves, which are now among the largest in the European Union. It also deepened its integration with regional and EU partners. Now, combined with sustained demand reduction, efficiency improvements, and exceptionally large storage capacity, these measures have significantly improved system resilience and reduced exposure to supply shocks in Austria. And more broadly, the country shows that energy security, climate action, and market-based systems can reinforce each other rather than be in contention with them, and that policy can move very fast when needed. The challenge is now to bring the same speed and consistency of delivery to longer-term energy transition so that Austria can meet its very ambitious objectives. And I'll end with this slide. The report highlights 10 key recommendations, but we've grouped them here into 5 key messages. The first is to match ambition with delivery, ensuring that governance, implementation, and financing can actually deliver the significant targets. Make energy system flexibility the operating principle, so adding value to storage and demand response so that a high renewable system stays reliable and affordable. Third, to integrate renewables in a systems-friendly way and unlock wind by fixing permitting and development zone issues. Fourth, to protect consumers through better competition in electricity and stronger oversight in district heating. And fifth, and finally, to keep industry competitive by linking support to clean investment and phase hydrogen infrastructure in line with Austria's demand. All of these are available in the report, which is available for free on our website. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Gibt es Fragen seitens der Journalisten? Wir haben eigentlich auch einen Dolmetscher, also Sie können auch gerne die Frage auch auf Deutsch, und wir haben hier auch Dolmetschgeräte. Bitte sehr.
Good morning, Mr. Birol. May I ask you about the stock markets, fossil stock markets, because we are not sure if they are just optimistic, or do you think that the prices will rise further, or is it realistic? That would be the first. And the second is, could this all also have just a positive aspect for tipping points for fossils? So, because the countries do switch, they start to switch even more. Could you elaborate on that a little? Thank you.
We get a couple of questions.
Okay. Zweite Frage hier, bitte.
Danke, herzlich. Entschuldigen Sie, wenn ich die Frage auf Deutsch stelle, aber das ist ja kein Problem, wenn ich das richtig verstanden habe. Danke. Ja, Energie- und Management Fischer, mein Name. Österreich macht sich ja stark für eine Reform des Merit-Order-Systems auf europäischer Ebene. Manche Parteien gehen so weit zu fordern, dass man das Merit-Order-System abschaffen sollte. Was halten Sie denn davon, meine Herren? Danke herzlich.
David Freudenthaler, Die Presse. As you mentioned, we have a very difficult situation on the global energy markets. The government tries to stable the prices and keep fuel, for example, affordable to customers. On the other hand, we have a very tight budget situation in Austria and in other countries as well. Do you have concrete recommendations to reduce energy demands on short term on the one hand, and on the other hand, don't give wrong attractions to consumers to need more energy. Thank you.
This for the first round, and
Sorry. Okay. So the first question is about the prices. You are right. Prices are about, as of today, $110. But before I go, it reflects the current market conditions or not. I should tell you it is not very low. Before this started, it was $60. It is now almost double the prices. We are just put it in a context. But I expect if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, we may well see higher prices than we have now, which could have significant implications for the inflation numbers. And this could also cut the economic growth in many countries around the world, especially in emerging and developing countries. Then different countries will be affected in different ways. It will start with Asia, but Europe will be affected from this as well. Not only in terms of the oil prices, but also through the natural gas prices to come. And we shouldn't forget that especially not for crude oil, but also the products are becoming an issue. Among the products, I should say jet fuel is at the is a very difficult situation. I have mentioned a couple of weeks ago that we are going to face in Europe a jet fuel challenge if there was no opening of the Strait of Hormuz. And after that statement, you might have heard that several airline companies, Lufthansa, KLM, Scandinavian Airlines, Ryanair, have announced that they are reducing the flights. And the issue is, dear colleagues, not only the supply is not coming, because for Europe, 75% of our jet fuel came from Middle East. Let's not stop. We are looking for alternatives. And when we come to the July, August, jet fuel demand normally in August is 40% higher than March. So demand is going to increase and the supply is going to be stable. This could create a challenge, and this may even push the prices further up. When we look at the history, when there was such crisis, coming back to the second question, there are always strategic responses to that from the governments. I'll give you one example, since we talk about transportation sector. In the 1970s, before this oil crisis has started, an average car, to drive 100 kilometers, it needed about 20 liters of gasoline. So 20 liters for 100 kilometers. After the crisis, car manufacturing industry went through a big transformation. Very shortly, instead of 20 liters, a car needed on average 10 liters. They became much more efficient, the cars. Similar things will happen. Similar things will happen. There will be responses to that. It is too early to say what will be the reactions, but one of the things I expect is the electric cars will get a major boost. We are already seeing some signs of it. The energy efficiency will get a big boost. Nuclear power in some countries will get a big boost. And in some countries, we may see coal to get a big boost as well, especially in Asia. To say in general, the global energy map will be redrawn. Suppliers, importers, trade routes will change, because Strait of Hormuz has a reputation that it is once closed, it may be closed again. As I said, the vase is broken. The vase is broken once. If it is broken with the Yoo-hoo, you cannot put it together again, the same thing. It is already done. The damage is done. So therefore, we will see the global energy map will be redrawn. So the second question, the merit order. I don't want to go to the Austrian politics. Maybe Madam Secretary will respond the second question about electricity markets, electricity system and merit order. But I can tell you that the electricity security is extremely important here. We cannot put it at risk, the security of electricity. It could have major implications for the broader policy agenda, and we have seen that in some countries we have seen blackouts and others, so we should at any cost avoid that. The third question from the colleague from the press. So we made some suggestions to reduce the energy demand, especially oil demand now, and as I said, 40 countries in Asia and beyond are following those. And in some countries, dear colleagues, the rationing has started. Rationing has started in Asia. I can tell you, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, Philippines. It is coming from Asia because the 80–90% of the oil and gas of Asia came from the Strait of Hormuz. So, and this will come forward, and this will affect everybody. And we made these suggestions. We have a 10-point plan how to reduce the oil in a hurry in the short term. But in the longer term, I believe especially the fact that the globally almost half of the oil is used in the transportation sector. I expect that the electric cars and maybe we talk next year in the Innovation Forum with some data. I expect the electric trucks, the LKWs, they will also get their cost will also come down thanks to the battery prices coming down. We may see some surprises coming from there, and renewables will get a big boost as well. So there will be short-term measures that the governments have to take together with citizens to reduce the oil demand, to lessen the pain, because we cannot completely cancel the pain, lessen the pain on the economy. But in the longer term, more strategic responses are needed, and I stop here.
Ja, vielleicht darf ich noch ergänzen. Ich glaube, dieses Beispiel von Dr. Birol hat ganz klar gezeigt, was die Rolle von Innovation sein kann. Die Verbrenner sind effizienter geworden und genauso geht es jetzt mit neuen Technologien, die aufgrund dieser Hochpreisphase bei den fossilen Energien ihren Durchbruch und ihre Breitenwirksamkeit entfalten können. Was mir vielleicht noch wichtig ist, insgesamt zu sagen, wir haben derzeit in Österreich keine Versorgungskrise, aber eine Preiskrise. Und genau um das geht es ja in vielen Ländern, den Pain zu mindern. Ja? Und bei uns geht es darum, wir müssen auch die Inflation eindämmen. Das ist genau die Zielrichtung, die die österreichische Bundesregierung verfolgt. Das war auch der Grund für die Eingriffe in die Preise an der Zapfsäule, um hier zumindest 0,2 Prozentpunkt inflationsdämpfend zu wirken. Das ist der Grund, warum auch Gott sei Dank diese Woche das Thema der Mehrwertsteuersenkung im Parlament sein wird, weil auch da geht es natürlich darum, entsprechend inflationsdämpfend zu wirken. Es ist gut, dass wir im letzten Jahr die Senkung der Elektrizitätsabgabe für die Haushalte auf das EU-Minimum und die Halbierung für die Unternehmen beschlossen haben. Auch das sind weitere 0,25 Prozentpunkte ungefähr von der Inflation, und diese vielen kleinen Maßnahmen wirken dazu, dass wir die Inflation in den Griff bekommen, damit aus dieser Energiekrise keine nachhaltige Wirtschaftskrise wird. Aber wie gesagt, wir sind alle mitgefangen, wir werden alle konfrontiert mit den Folgen der Schließung der Straße von Hormuz und versuchen alle auch auf diplomatischem Wege unser Bestes zu geben, dass hier bald aufgemacht wird. Zum Thema ETS, Merit Order, möchte ich noch einen Punkt sagen, weil es ist, glaube ich, ganz wichtig, es ist im Bericht ja auch entsprechend vorgekommen, grüne Energie muss zum günstigen Preis bei den Kunden ankommen. Genau das ist unser Ziel. Jetzt ist die Merit Order per se, und da gebe ich Dr. Birol 100%ig recht, ein ganz wichtiges Instrument, um Versorgungssicherheit zu gewährleisten. Das hat man in allen vergangenen Krisen gesehen. Aber das Zusammenspiel von Merit Order und ETS, das ist das, wo wir genau hinschauen müssen, weil es kann nicht sein, dass wenn wir jetzt ohnehin mit höheren Gaspreisen konfrontiert sind und Gas in vielen Fällen preisbestimmend ist, dass wir hier dann den höheren Preis für grüne Energie zahlen. Entschuldigung. Also es geht genau darum, dass wir die günstigen Energiepreise der grünen Energie durchreichen auf die Haushaltskunden, und das geht nur, wenn wir das ETS in der Merit Order entsprechend zurückdrängen. So.
Aufgrund der fortgeschrittenen Zeit würde ich dann noch 2 Fragen zulassen. Bitte sehr.
Monika Graf, Salzburger Nachrichten. You have drawn a dramatic picture of the situation in oil and gas. Does or did and do the Europeans react fast enough to the upcoming, however, lack of oil and gas, or possible lack of oil and gas? We did not hear about speed limits, we did not hear about home office regulations, whatever. Thank you.
Und eine letzte Frage noch. Dann vielleicht hier, bitte.
Mr. Birol, if this is the biggest energy crisis ever, as you said, why is there so little political outrage and so little political pressure on the US in this case to end this war if the whole world is affected?
Aber dann vielleicht noch eine letzte Frage noch von den Herrn in der ersten Reihe. Den Herrn Gaul.
The last question would be for the State Secretary. Given the recommendations in this report, does this change anything on your policy?
Dann fange ich gleich an. Ja, also das Gute ist, dass der Report eigentlich genau das bestätigt in die Richtung, in die wir gehen. Wenn wir sehen, es geht um schnellere Genehmigungsverfahren, um schneller die Erzeugungskapazitäten an den Markt zu bringen, dann sind wir dabei, das Erneuerbaren Ausbaubeschleunigungsgesetz zu machen. Es war das Thema des Hochlaufs des Wasserstoffmarktes ein großes Thema. Das wird in unserem Gaswirtschaftsgesetz entsprechend abgebildet sein, wo es natürlich genau darum geht, dass wir am Beginn beim Hochlauf dieses Wasserstoffstartnetzes auch mit einer klugen Förderpolitik dahinter sind, dass nicht überfördert wird, aber der Anreiz geschaffen wird, dass unsere Industrie tatsächlich umsteigt. Und so geht es eigentlich mit den einzelnen Bereichen weiter. Das Positive ist insbesondere bei dem Energy System Flexibility haben wir durch das LWG eigentlich den Rahmen geschaffen. Wir werden jetzt die entsprechenden Verordnungen auch mit der E-Control auf den Weg bringen und das wird genau in diese Richtung gehen, wo wir dafür sorgen, dass eben die Flexibilitäten gewahrt sind, dass ein ordentlicher Mechanismus auch für Demand Response da ist. Es ist eine Empfehlung zum Beispiel auch drinnen, Vehicle to Grid, also die E-Auto-Batterien auch für die Netzstabilisierung zu nutzen. Auch das sind Dinge, die wir entsprechend adressieren. Das heißt, wir sehen uns bestätigt und sehen auch die wichtigen Punkte, die uns dieser Report mitgibt. Und ich darf da noch einmal Danke sagen. Auch für uns ist das sehr wertvoll in der Zusammenarbeit mit der Energieagentur, auch zu sehen, wo sind wir auf der richtigen Spur und wo müssen wir auch schneller werden.
So maybe I try to address the 2 other questions. From Salzburger Nachrichten, our colleague asked about whether the Europeans understand how big the problem is. How shall I say it? I put it this way. The crisis has started, the war, on 28th of February. And 3 weeks, I told all of my colleagues at IEA, we don't speak to press. It's a very sensitive issue. But I understood, and we read that people didn't get it, how important it is. Then I started to say, I labeled this as the biggest energy crisis in the history because the numbers show that. Now, why Europe, for example, Asia is different. I was in Australia with the Prime Minister Albanese, with Madame Takaichi, Prime Minister of Japan. They were much more, of course, alert to the situation because they are on the forefront. But dear colleagues, the oil markets are global. And if you think the oil prices are only reflected when you go and buy your gasoline in the Tankstelle, it is wrong. It will affect the entire supply chain and inflation numbers around the world. If the inflation or the economy is bad in one country, in Asia or in the United States or in North America, it will affect everybody through different chains. It will take some time. So I think Europe, we had already 4 years ago another crisis with the Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the gas crisis. This is the second one. And it is the reason my second heads up was on the jet fuel story. The jet fuel is, we have little jet fuel. We have major jet fuel challenges in Europe. Hopefully it will be solved. And in my view, what Asians are doing now, taking some measures in order to reduce the consumption, should be also in the list of European policymakers. It can be going from the teleworking to increasing the role of public transportation to other measures, and I think it is important to take these steps earlier rather than later, because if we take them later, you may need to take some more drastic measures than taking it earlier. The second question is why there is not enough diplomatic efforts. Of course, it is. I know that globally, this is many countries are working on this, but it's a very complex political issue. As for International Energy Agency, we are talking with all the countries. I am talking with Nigeria, because Nigeria is now the main jet fuel importing source of Europe. They have important refineries. I was in Canada recently with the major exporter in Brazil. We are doing our best, but the solution to this problem doesn't go through energy sector. It should be a diplomatic solution. I hope it will happen soon. And again, the measures talking about reducing the consumption or increasing the production from Nigeria or Canada or from Brazil, these are good, but they are not the final solutions. Currently, at this crisis we are now, the one and the most important solution is fully opening of Strait of Hormuz. Without this happens, I think we will have some volatile markets for some months to come. But your country, Madam State Secretary, is better prepared than many others in the world, as our report shows, and is a key member of the International Energy Agency family. We are, Madam State Secretary, ready to support you, your government, and looking forward to work together to go through these difficult days, difficult era, hopefully, and hope to see each other in next spring in the Innovation Forum, and hopefully, I hope personally, to have it somewhere in the Erstebezirk, so if I may say so, Madam Secretary, and to bring several hundred people around the world, innovators, tech people, and to make Vienna once again center of innovation.
Thank you. We are looking forward to it. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Vielen Dank fürs Kommen. Bei weiteren Fragen haben Sie meine E-Mail-Adresse und können auch telefonisch kontaktieren. Im Anschluss, we would like to take a photo in front of the first slide. If you just come here in front of the screen, we can have a photo for the press. First slide, that would be amazing. Thank you.
We take it with us.
Oh, perfect. Please.